It is a moment to be grateful for our armed forces, and therefore it is my great honor and privilege to have back with us on our podcast General Tiny Dhillon, who is anything but tiny. He's a lion among men. He's a military hero. He's also the author of a new upcoming book. His first book, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, is already a bestseller. And his upcoming book is called Wafadari, Imandari, Zimmedari. General Dhillon, I cannot think of three better words to describe what the armed forces have displayed in the last few days after Operation Sindoor. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your courage. And thank you for your words of wisdom. I want to start by asking you to assess the overall situation. I am talking to you post what the Americans called a ceasefire, but India calls an understanding. An understanding that was violated within 2 hours of its announcement. I was in Jammu और मैंने अपने सर के ऊपर से एक ड्रोन को इंटरसेप्ट, लिटरली आई वाज सिटिंग देयर और मेरे सर के ऊपर से एक ड्रोन, पाकिस्तान का ड्रोन इंटरसेप्ट होते हुए देखा. And of course, that very night, explosions were heard in Srinagar. In Udhampur, a drone intrusion was tried. I'm talking to you after the first quiet night at the line of control and the border. How do you assess the overall situation?
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for your time, and wishing all the very best to your viewers.
Thank you, sir.
Firstly, what happened in Pahalgam on 22nd April? It was, I will not call it a terrorist act, I will call it a cold-blooded murder. Mass murder of people in front of their wives, in front of their daughters, children, brothers, sisters, and parents.
Yeah.
The most heinous of crimes in humanity.
Yeah.
That was committed on 22nd April in Pahalgam, where our citizens were segregated on the basis of religion.
That's right.
And shot in cold blood in front of their loved ones.
Yeah.
That was very sad. And when the terror act was committed, then India vowed that we will take a revenge, or we will, sort of carry out an action to take out those who have carried out this terrorist act.
Mm.
And if I can go back in the history, when 9/11 happened, Osama bin Laden and his group was responsible for 9/11, and Americans took him out from Abbottabad.
Yeah.
And they came in, they took him out from the Abbottabad in Pakistan, and that was not an act of war. That was an act to take revenge of what terrorists had done in their homeland. Similarly, what terrorists have done in Indian homeland, that is Pahalgam, we revenged by attacking only the terrorist bases, starting from Muzaffarabad, Kotli in Pakistan-occupied J&K, going right up to Bahawalpur in southern part of Pakistani Punjab. Then that included Murid K, Rai Wind, and
right.
That Chakamru and all. So total of 9 places were hit. And this was not an act of war.
You are saying Operation Sindoor was not an act of
similarly,
war.
When Americans,
it was an act of retaliation.
Act of retaliation. When Americans took out Osama bin Laden from Abbottabad, it was not an act of war.
Right.
It was a retaliation to what Osama did in USA on 9/11. Similarly, what Pakistani terrorists did in Pahalgam on 22nd April, retaliation happened on when Operation Sindoor was launched in the midnight. Now, that's why I'm saying this was not an act of war. An Indian declaration was very clear that we are taking out the terrorist bases. We are not hitting any military installation. We are not targeting any civilian area. So we are not even interested in escalation. So with all these terms of reference, in the military we call it terms of reference, that means these cannot be violated. India gave itself the terms of reference of not hitting a military installation, not hitting a civilian area, and not interested in escalation. But there afterwards, the onus was on Pakistan to take it to the war level or leave it there.
But they took it to the war level.
They took it to the war level. Any act when your ammunition or explosives or your projectiles or your platforms cross the international boundary with an intent to hit civilian areas or military targets, that's an act of war. So what Pakistan indulged after our Operation Sindoor was launched was an act of war against our civilians in Poonch, in Rajouri, in Jammu, and in other parts of India.
That's right.
As also a BSF elements. So then India retaliated, and then what happened is known to everyone. So overall situation now is, when sort of probed so much and carrying out so many casualties of civilians, and finally when they were drones and the missiles were actually hitting our areas and they were being encountered, halfway, midway, then India carried out a massive retaliation, not massive, some sort of retaliation against their air bases.
Yeah.
And in which Pakistan suffered losses. And finally, when, as you said, that Americans call it a ceasefire, we call it understanding. But situation as of now is, there is a relative calm for last 24 hours. Today we are talking on 12th of May in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But Operation Sindoor has not been called off.
Can you explain that? What does it mean? Yesterday and today, the military has made it clear that Operation Sindoor is still ongoing.
Ma'am, Operation Sindoor is our defense forces and our nation do things to protect our interests. So we started something called Operation Sindoor. Now, in case our interests are jeopardized, in case our defense forces are hit, in case our civilians are hit, we reserve the right to retaliate or act in any manner which we deem fit till the time Operation Sindoor is on. And that does not include only the military options.
Yeah.
That includes all the options which the nation has, which any nation can have. It may be political, military, economic, diplomatic, or whatever. So till Operation Sindoor is on, India has all the rights and the options to act in the best interest of the state.
Let's talk a little bit about the air bases, because now we have some on-record details. In fact, at the last military briefing, a video was shown of the Noor Khan base. A video was shown of the damaged strip of the Rahim Khan base. And India has really shown capacity by doing this. What is the significance of being able to target with such precision the air bases inside Pakistan? And do you think that was the turning point that suddenly Pakistan wanted a halt in the military hostilities?
Through your channel, I must inform the audience, especially the Indian audience, the point which you touched, Indian military capabilities. Their precision capability to strike at will at the target which they choose, in spite of the defensive measures, including the air defense, the aerial defense and the ground defense by the enemy. Whereas the enemy tried the same thing on our side, but it failed miserably because of our complete aerial defense. So this is a capability which India has. And when India could strike at will, and this time Pakistan could not hide the damage, because the damage was already on social media through the local public with their mobile camera recordings. So when we could strike at some of the very sensitive air bases like Sargodha and all, and the areas around Sargodha, we all know what rests there. But point is, we have the capability to strike at will at the place of our own choosing with the weapon of our own choosing, in spite of complete defense in place by Pakistan. So that is the military capability India has. Now, when that was demonstrated, and I don't want to go into that. There's a Chinese weapon system that side, there are Russian weapon systems and Indian homemade weapon system this side. The world is now watching their trials in actual conflict.
Yeah.
And who is the winner? We all know it. Our weapon systems of Russian origin and of Indian origin, on Indian made and joint venture made, they had the complete dominance of space and ground, and they did not allow any of the enemy projectiles to hit any of our targets. Whereas same side, other side cannot be said. So there was a lot of, rumbling in the world.
That's a very important distinction, because India was able to hit the air bases of Pakistan, and Pakistan tried but was not able to breach India's air defense. And it was said at the latest military briefing that all of India's military bases are operational and ready for the next mission. But, General Saab, India's military armed forces have long prepared and war-gamed for a two-front or a two-and-a-half-front conflict or war. In this situation, we did not see in the literal way a two-front war, but it is widely known that China has rhetorically backed Pakistan, and China has also supplied weaponry to Pakistan along with Turkey. to that extent, were our armed forces fighting not just Pakistan, but Pakistan getting some sort of, वो कहते हैं ना कि कंधे पे हाथ रखा हुआ चाइना का?
Absolutely, ma'am. Pakistan's home defense industrial complex hardly produces anything. Even the heavy vehicle factory at Taxila, which is supposed to be producing the tanks and all, has got a lot of components coming in from China and other countries. Not going there. Everything which was on display in this war, in this conflict, from Pakistani side was outsider equipment. Mostly Chinese, some from Turkey as such.
Yeah.
Now for this side, it was independently make in India products. It was joint venture products like BrahMos.
Yeah.
And it was pure Russian products as of now, like S-400s.
Yeah.
Which in the longer run would be jointly produced or whatever happened. So here was a display wherein the combination of our systems, our legacy systems, our the new systems and our state-of-the-art systems in combination all along the front were deployed, and nowhere could they breach. They could not even breach where our legacy systems were deployed and hit the targets. So that shows the quality of weapon systems we have on the platform and the quality offensive and defensive both on their side. The offensive could not breach us. The defensive could not stop us from breaching their defensive layout. So both these Indian equipment was, primarily winner.
Now, General Dhillon, we are in Punjab, and this is very important because ever since Operation Sindoor targeted the Lashkar headquarters in Muridke is like Gurgaon to Delhi.
Yes, ma'am.
It's that close. And Bahawalpur, where the Jaish headquarters are, because we hit them in the part of their country that उनका आर्मी भी पंजाबी डोमिनेटेड है, उनकी पॉलिटिक्स भी पंजाबी डोमिनेटेड है, उनकी वेल्थ जो है वो भी पंजाब डोमिनेटेड है. I think that apart from Jammu and Kashmir and some parts from the western border, they really had their eyes on Punjab. So if you saw the first night when these tensions escalated, Amritsar, Bhatinda, Jalandhar, Kapurthala, this is now officially known. And our foreign secretary has said this on record now. Pakistan was also trying to target places of worship. A Gurdwara in Poonch, temple complex in Jammu. I was there, I went to Jammu temple. And sir, the very fact that they targeted Amritsar, I was speaking to a resident of Amritsar and he said, हमने सोचा था कि जब इन्होंने वीजा जब कैंसिल किए, सिख पिलग्रिम्स को छोड़ दिया, अमृतसर को नहीं करेंगे, अमृतसर इज हमारे लिए हमारा वैटिकन. इन्होंने दिखा दिया कि इनको किसी चीज के लिए, किसी धर्म के लिए रिस्पेक्ट नहीं है. I want you to talk. Of course, we successfully thwarted them. What were they trying to do? Because they weren't just targeting military bases. They were trying to target civilian areas. They were trying to target places of worship. They were trying to target Amritsar, which is our holiest, a holy city for millions of Indians, not just for Sikhs. Yes. So tell us what they were trying to do.
Ma'am, this whole thing which was started by Pakistan on 22nd of April in Pahalgam.
Yes.
It started on the premise of Hindus and Muslims.
Correct.
On the religious divide.
Correct.
A week before that, their Chief of Army Staff, Munir, had made a public statement to the diaspora that Hindu and Muslim are two different people and they cannot live together and Muslims are better and blah, 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 blah.
Correct.
So narrative started from there.
Yes.
That we will divide it on the basis of the religion.
Yes.
Then Pahalgam happened that we will create a rift on the basis of the religion. And they thought, whatever is coming on their social media is a reality about Indian cohesiveness. The Indian population living together for centuries. Yeah. And they misread that. And same narrative was carried out when they targeted a Gurdwara in Jammu and Kashmir, a temple in Jammu, or any other places of worship. So narrative was based on that, that we will try and divide the population on the name of religion, Hindu, Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, or Sikh, Muslim, whatever. But when that failed, not even a voice was raised, not even a slogan was raised on the basis of religion. And when they started getting hit, then they shifted their focus to the places where Indian military and air force bases are. Amritsar is a big army cantonment and big air force base. Pathankot, big army cantonment, big air force base. Bhatinda, big army cantonment, big air force base. Similarly, you keep going down south. And then they did not bother कि कौन हिंदू है, कौन मुसलमान है, कौन सिख है. Then everything was for the nation of theirs.
Yeah.
And वो तो वो country है जिसमें वो अपने प्रधानमंत्री को भी till the time he is in chair, the moment he is removed. I'm using the word removed.
Correct.
And when he is removed, he is either in jail or abroad. So for them, there is no love lost for anyone. And when they realize the strength of Indian society, the Indian culture, the Indian heritage which we have, 5,000 years of civilization, that is when they realize that this cannot happen, now let's go military. And then they forgot all those things which they were trying to do for this religion or that religion. Then there are no holds barred. Then it was only that they want to hit the military targets wherever they are, starting right from Jaisalmer going up to Jammu and Kashmir. So for that country, and this narrative started with Asim Munir's speech, Pahalgam, and initial 2 days of this conflict which happened. But there afterwards, they realized it cannot succeed.
And, we were told now that Pakistan was trying to attack India with waves of drones. 300 to 400 drones, one night at 36 locations, another night at 26 locations. And even after the ceasefire or understanding, whatever you want to call it, 2 hours of that, a lot of Aam Janta may ask, Tiny Dhillon sir, how can we trust Pakistan? We can't trust Pakistan. And they showed that by sending in their drones 2 hours after that ceasefire. So how do we manage the situation now?
Absolutely. This country cannot be trusted. Their military cannot be trusted. And it is not that this time. Every time in the history, they have dished. Every time we have reached an agreement or understanding or mutual trust, mutual faith, every time they have gone back from that. Now, talking about the waves of drones, this psyching of the public in the world about the waves of drones or swarms of drones started about 5-10 years ago.
Really?
Including with the Beijing Olympics.
Acha.
The display of drones for doing all types of things in the sky, and then it was used against Russia also, and then in the Ukraine war. But this time, they actually wanted to test it against live enemy. And if they were successful, China would have gone back to the bank happy. Everyone in the world would have bought these systems.
Right.
But the way they got defeated, their narrative fell flat. And the way Indian defense, especially the air defense, which I said included all types of systems, right, straight from our legacy systems, right up to the state of art. And now, these people will go to the bank happy. Because there are countries who just buy weapon systems to protect even if they don't have enemies. So this war was being fought at different levels. Or this conflict, if I can say that.
Were we in a way also fighting China?
Yeah, it was Chinese and Russian equipment and Chinese and Indian equipment at front of each other.
Odds with each other,
Odds with each other. And everyone knows who won. It is there for the world to see by satellite imagery also. Okay, whose air bases are down and whose air bases are operative.
There's been
another thing about ethical enemy or not ethical.
Yes.
An enemy which can use a civilian airliner.
Yes.
During the wartime as a human shield. Now, what do you call that enemy?
So, a lot of people may not know this, but you should explain this, that Pakistan did not close its civilian airspace, even though it knew that there was this battle in the skies taking place. So it actually deliberately endangered maybe even its own people, maybe even its own citizens by not shutting the airspace, even though it knew that the Indian retaliation was coming.
Ma'am, for Pakistan deep state, which is primarily military and ISI, everyone is dispensable. Everyone is dispensable, everyone is disposable. For them to use as civilian airliners, as I called it, or civilian aircraft, passenger aircrafts, during this conflict, if suppose by mistake, radar picks up a signal and a weapon system is launched, and accidentally also, or you can say misunderstanding or not able to identification issues, IFF drills identification of friend or foe. Now, if a single civilian aircraft were hit by Indian missiles, or they themselves had carried out a false flag operation, imagine the type of backlash it would have come on India.
Yeah.
All these ethical and unethical words we're using about Pakistan military and deep state, they would have been spoken against us.
Right.
Hats off to the Indian military, Indian defense system, the Indian air defense systems especially, and the people who are controlling it. Then they did not do any mistake at all.
But how do you deal with an adversary that does not even follow the rules of war? वो कहते हैं ना कि war also has rules.
Yes, ma'am. War has very well laid out convention.
Yeah.
There are certain conventions which are laid out.
Yeah.
And there are certain honor codes which are followed.
Yeah.
Like Indian Army follows the honor code. We treat our dead enemy with all the respect. That's
and we
honor
saw
code.
this in Kargil.
Yes.
Pakistan would not take back the bodies of its own soldiers.
Yes.
And Indian military
gave a decent burial.
Gave the burials.
As per the religious rights and traditions
Correct.
of the country.
Now the point is, here you're dealing with an adversary, an enemy, जिसकी कोई principles नहीं.
Absolutely.
तो फिर how do
no honor code, no ethics.
I was listening to the three services doing the briefing, और वो अभी भी बोल रहे हैं, our fight is not with the Pakistan military. No. Our fight is with terrorists. Look at how the Pakistan military talks. Look at how our military talks. That shows you the difference, according to me, between India and Pakistan. But sir, you have been a lion of this anti-terrorism fight with your stint in the valley. How do you deal with an adversary who doesn't follow a single rule?
Absolutely, ma'am. As a military man, we have grown in the service. Like I use the word honor codes, ethics.
Yeah.
You use the word wafadari, imandari, zimmedari.
Yeah.
These are the naam, namak, nishan. These are the lifeline for a soldier. These are the pillars of our strength. The pillars of our virtues. The pillars of our actions. Now suddenly we are, faced with an enemy either directly or through terrorism who doesn't follow any of these. But one thing which Indian military has always done, we have remained within the norms of service, within the norms of humanity, and within the norms of ethics of the military. We have never breached this Lakshman Rekha.
Yeah.
Because for us, our honor codes are more important.
Yeah.
We cannot stoop down to the level of this enemy who doesn't have any honor code, not a single. Same thing. How can you put civilians at risk in a conflict situation?
Yeah.
So we have been very clear. It might delay our operations. We might buy casualties, we might suffer casualties. But we take it on our chin with honor and pride. We do not deviate from our honor code lines. Our army ethics are very clear on that. In fact, Army, Navy, Air Force.
Absolutely. When the ceasefire was claimed by Trump, but put very differently by Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, there was some debate, including former Army Chief General Malik, who said publicly that people might ask, what were the gains? In other words, there was some sort of skepticism कि हमने ये अभी ceasefire क्यों किया? Yes, India had consistently said if Pakistan doesn't, attack our military bases, doesn't attack our people, you can take the off ramp. But जिस दिन वो ceasefire announce हुआ, it was a near war situation. I remember being in Jammu, waking up at 5 a.m. to the sound of explosions, going to a residential colony where a woman had just lost her house. उसका पूरा घर का रूफ उड़ गया था, लेकिन झंडा वहां पे लहरा रहा था.
I saw that.
मंदिर अटैक हुआ. बॉर्डर विलेजेस में हमारे एक बीएसएफ के सोल्जर की जान गई. लोगों के घरों में मॉर्टर शेल्स गिरे थे. टू दोज हु आर कंसर्न्ड कि हमने सीज फायर क्यों अभी माना, आप क्या कहेंगे?
First, I will make a statement. Like Jal Malik said, history will be the judge.
Yes. He raised a question. He raised a question.
Yeah, he raised a question whether we did the right or not. But point is, he has said, okay, we will see how it is seen.
Correct.
And my point to the point which you made, I tweeted also, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना.
Yes.
सीता भी यहाँ बदनाम हुई.
Yes.
लोगों को कहने पे. तो we must learn from our history. Our history is very rich. Now, I would say, like we said in the first question itself, it is an agreement of ceasing hostilities. Operation Sindoor continues.
Yeah.
If Pakistan violates this agreement, which it did in the first 2 hours, and if it violates this agreement to an extent where we need to react, we will react without referring to anyone. Because for us, the Operation Sindoor is on, and protection and the safety of our citizens, our military, our borders, our land is the prime responsibility of the military forces, defense forces. They will not have to take any more orders from anyone because they are very much actively on in Operation Sindoor. So we have not closed Operation Sindoor or said, okay, Operation Sindoor is over.
आपने ये जो बात कही कि कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, ये बहुत जरूरी बात है because moments after this agreement was announced, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri had to receive a barrage of abuse on social media and everybody has now come out to condemn it. But he had to lock his account. उनकी बेटी के बारे में, अनाप शनाप कहा जा रहा था. So this is very disturbing. One of the great things about our country is how united we have stayed. Everybody has buried all their differences and we don't know who is driving this agenda, but it needs to be shut down.
Absolutely. Ma'am, coming down to a civil servant who is doing his job, or for that matter, a military officer who is doing his job, is one thing. Now, coming down to the children and the daughter, ma'am, हम तो वो लोग हैं जो धरती को भी, मिट्टी को भी माँ बोलते हैं. धरती माता. हमारे तो देवी देवता, देवी पहले आता है, देवता बाद में आता है.
बिल्कुल.
That is the type of society we are, the type of respect we have for our women folk. Mother, sister, daughter. Even in Islam, when you do a good deed, serve the mother, then serve the mother, then serve the mother, and then serve the father. मैम इतना महत्व है सब कॉन्टिनेंट में लेडी का. And now some trolls, stupid people without knowing our history, our culture, our tradition, our ethics, our human values, you're going after someone's daughter. I only say, मतलब कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे is one thing. ये तो लोग हैं ही नहीं मैम, ये तो दरिंदे हैं. They have no value, they have no human value. इनके घर में भी माँ है, बहन है, बेटी है. Now, those who cannot respect someone else's daughter, sister, or mother, I'm very sure they have no respect for their own daughter, sister, or mother.
Thank you for saying it so passionately and unequivocally. To come back to the escalatory ladder, and you made a very important point. You said Operation Sindoor abhi khatam nahi hua, and we also know now that army commanders have full freedom. PM chaired a meeting yesterday, today. On the ground, commanders will make their own responses to localized challenges. If I were to take it back to उरी में जो टेरर अटैक हुआ, सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक्स हुई, पुलवामा में जो टेरर अटैक हुआ, बालाकोट हुआ, पहलगाम में हुआ, सिंदूर हुआ, then Pakistan actually tried to escalate it to a point of war and फिर बैठ गए when they saw how India had responded fiercely. But Pakistan will not give up on terrorism. We should understand this. It is just ingrained in their states. I don't know what to call it, psychology. So, sir, how do we manage our security doctrine when your adversary has, as we've said, no ethics, and वो सामने आके भी नहीं लड़ता, वो proxies को भेजता है? How has our security doctrine shifted?
Something very important happened this time. When we struck against the terror camps or the terror bases or the headquarters, certain terrorists died. And in their funeral, there was army, general rank officers, there were police, there were civilians, and there were other civil strata. That means Pakistani military, Pakistani police, Pakistan government, Pakistan state, and terrorists are one. And here onwards, we will treat them as one. Every terror act is carried out by Pakistan military, Pakistan state, Pakistan government. And we reserve the right to retaliate against Pakistan state, Pakistan military, Pakistan government, or terrorist camps. This time what happened was, as compared to Uri and Balakot, Uri was a single service army option executed. Balakot was a single service Air Force option executed. This time it was a multi-service, that is Army, Navy, Air Force, as also the diplomatic initiatives of Indus Water Treaty, scaling down the embassies, the visa rules, and pulling back the defense attaches, and the economic options, political options, diplomatic options. So this time it was a whole of nation approach. That time it was a single service approach or option with whole of nation backing you. This time it was a whole of nation approach with all arms of the government, all arms of the nation, military and the diplomatic and everything, part of it, and the retaliation was that. But there was one difference. We had laid down terms of reference for ourselves. For the benefit of your viewers, term of reference is a military terminology. That means if my senior commander gives me a task, and then he says, Tiny, these 3 are terms of reference. Nothing to happen before 6 in the morning, everything to close down by 6 in the evening, and something. So these 2 terms of reference, nothing before 6 in the morning, nothing after 6 in the evening, are Lakshman Rekhas for me. They are the binding lines for me. They are the guiding. I can't breach these terms of reference. This time we had given the terms of reference to ourselves when we started Operation Sindoor. No military installation to be targeted, no civilian area to be targeted, no escalation.
Okay.
So from our side, our retaliation was very clear. It was against terrorist targets. Similar to what America did to Osama bin Laden in Abbottabad.
Right.
And our terms of reference were declared terms of reference. Now, even after that, when Pakistan retaliated by targeting our civilians, our places of worship and our military installations, and then when we hit at all his air bases, that is when he realized that he is no match. His weapon systems are no match. His defensive system are no match. His offensive system are no match. All that offensive projectiles, missiles and drones are littered around from Jaisalmer right up to Jammu in our fields. Not a single one hit a military target. Not a single one hit an intended air base. So this is where when he realized all our targets hit their bases, hit their airfields, hit the terror hubs, killing the families of the terrorists, going down into the basements and taking them out. That is when he realized that we have the capability to hit at will, hit at the targets we intend to, hit at with the ammunition we want to, and he will not be able to stop them. When the military might comparison was clear to him, that is when he came down to this, his DGMO called up first. He came down to this so-called agreement. But I am insisting again, Operation Sindoor continues. Our options are open. We have the right to exercise them as and when, if and when required.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned the American operation to take out Osama bin Laden, because I think a lot of Indians are also very irritated at Western hypocrisy, the way Western media, not all, but a large part of it, continues to report through a very biased lens, not appreciating India's battle against terrorism. Talk a little bit about that. You know, that the Americans, when it impacts them, they went right in. They launched an entire war in Afghanistan. They had to leave Afghanistan without gaining much. But they did it because it was their people. When it's our people, they should appreciate what we feel.
Absolutely, ma'am. Ma'am, for very long in the history, most of the nations, including India, have been dependent on the Western world to sort out our problems. Gone are the days. Today, we have to sort out our own problems.
Yes.
We are the 4th largest economy. We have such a big military might. We are 1/6 of the world in population. That means if anyone has to even make a needle, he will have to come to India to sell it. Our economic might, our military might, our human resource might will ensure, and then we are the biggest democracy in the world. We have never had a prime minister going to jail the moment he is removed from the chair. We have never had a prime minister absconding to the third country the moment he is removed from the jail or chair.
Yeah.
So these are our mights and principles and our good faith, goodwill. Everyone will align with us. And we don't promote terrorism. Anywhere in the world, there is a terrorist act, dots get joined to Pakistan. So we have to fight our own battles. This we have been very clear in this particular operation. Nobody will come to fight it for you. If you have to fight terrorism, you have to fight it on your own. If you have to fight Pakistan, you have to fight it on your own. And this time, we just showed a trailer how we can do it on our own.
And
then,
God forbid they try this again.
Sorry, if they try it again, they will get hit back again. And this time, because we are working within the terms of reference, and one of the terms of reference was we do not want escalation.
Yeah.
We are not interested in escalation. We are not doing the escalation. Like I said, we have to operate within those terms of reference of, no civilian, no military, no escalation. When they hit military, we retaliated. We achieved our aim more than what we went for. We neutralized the terror targets, we neutralized their air bases, and we conveyed a message with a zero impact on our side to us. Of course, our civilians got hit. That is unethical on their part. But we could achieve our aim without, going out of our terms of reference. And next time, if they try it, terms of reference will be different.
Yeah. Do you think it reminds us also about the precarious situation with China? Now, we had begun to have some sort of diplomatic reconciliation, but China is playing a kind of double game here. And China is also trying to, while fighting America, make amends with America by getting a trade deal. Should we not be very careful about China?
Nowhere in the world you have a situation of a country who has two nuclear neighbors, and both are not friendly.
Yes.
This is just because I want to tell these things to your viewers.
Yes.
They should be aware of, what a nation we are, how much strength we have, how much resilience we have.
Yes.
Nowhere in the world any country has two nuclear neighbors who are both not friendly.
Yes.
Now coming to China proper. China-India equation is different. China-Pakistan collusion with Pakistan. Chinese collusion with Pakistan, and then China-Pakistan equation is different. One-on-one, we have a different relationship, confidence building measures and talks and this, that. We have ups and downs in our relationship. But when China is colluding with Pakistan and Pakistan is fighting us, actually when China is like that Shahukar, जिसका ना पैसा फंसा हुआ है, उसने that China-Pakistan economic corridor, CPEC, Gwadar port, वो बेचारा पैसा लगा के बैठा हुआ, लोन दे के बैठा हुआ, पैसा वापस नहीं आ रहा है. Now, he can't let Pakistan die down. उसका पैसा डूब जाएगा.
Correct.
So he has to keep Pakistan afloat for his economic interests. The complete CPEC, the Gwadar port, his entry in the Arabian Sea, the warm waters of Indian Ocean, is through this line. So he has economic, business interest and long-term strategic interests. So he's stuck.
Yeah. But General Dhillon, you said that look at us, we have two nuclear sort of powered nations, armed nations that are hostile to us in different ways. Yet we have a no first use doctrine because that is the country we are. In this period, some people have argued that we should make it clear that we can review this at will, or we should review it at will. What do you think about this?
Good you asked this question. Thank you for that. And I'll just take 30 seconds to explain what is the nuclear doctrine.
Yes, please.
So that most of the viewers will know, but some may not know. India has a declared nuclear doctrine.
Yes.
And it is self-imposing.
Yeah, it's voluntary.
It is voluntarily, it is not signed with anyone.
Yes.
No one has told us to do it. And we are not part of any treaty or agreement or with the neighbor or anyone.
Correct.
It is a self-imposed doctrine voluntarily. It says three things. It says first is, we will not use nuclear weapons against any non-nuclear state.
Yeah.
That means we will, even if we get into a fight with that or a war with that country, we will remain conventional.
Yeah.
We will not use nuclear weapons against a non-nuclear state. Very responsible statement.
Yes.
Second is, as a responsible nuclear state in the world, we will not use a nuclear weapon as a first strike.
Correct.
Even against the nuclear powers.
Yeah.
But if that nation strikes us first, that a nuclear country makes a nuclear strike on us first, our response will be massive with unacceptable damage. Now I will amplify the first strike.
Yeah.
First strike is against our military, against our civilians within Indian territory, as also if our military has advanced into the enemy territory by 40, 50, 100 kilometers, and enemy justifies a strike on our forces within his territory, कि मैंने तो अपने ही देश में किया है.
Correct.
We take it as a first strike against India.
क्या मतलब अगर वो अपने साइड भी करे,
जब तक हमारे सरकार, हमारे फौजी या हमारे सिविलियन कहीं पर भी हैं, उनके खिलाफ न्यूक्लियर स्ट्राइक अगर दुश्मन करेगा तो दैट इज काउंटेड एज स्ट्राइक वन. वी रिजर्व द राइट. massive strike, unacceptable damage. Now, isme there is another thinking. We don't have to wait for him to strike. Nuclear weapons, the warheads and the projectiles are kept separately so that there is no accidental thing. And when they are brought together before the use, it is called assembling or coupling, mating. So these two components are brought together at the place where they're going to launch from, or sit little behind that, and then they are carried forward and then they're launched. Now, if our intelligence, this is a school of thought, if our intelligence gives a clear indication and intelligence that they have moved both the components, they come to place A and they are now assembling it or coupling or mating, whatever terms, different countries use different terms. They're doing that. And this is the time we are very clear the enemy is assembling his nuclear weapons to use against us. Now, intent to use, where physical activity confirms that intent, is also taken as first use. It's not that we'll allow him to fire and kill our civilians or kill our military.
And then we'll respond.
Then we can respond at that moment and call it a second strike.
I see.
So this is how the nuclear and the point which you made, should we review it? Ma'am, we can review it in the next 5 minutes. That right is with the Indian government. We decide now is the time to review the nuclear strategy. We can make amend. Any terrorist act on our country, we reserve the right to respond with the nuclear strike. Or any country sponsoring terrorism from its soil, we reserve the right to hit it with the nuclear strike. Or we just say the first use option.
So we're not chained in any way.
We are not chained. It is self-imposed, sort of a principle on ourselves as a respectable and, following the laws of the world, responsible country who has nuclear weapons.
But I asked you this question because Pakistan repeatedly made brazen nuclear threats in the last few weeks. Their ministers, their defense minister, their other ministers, their diplomats, they said, the full spectrum of options, including nuclear. I think the reason they do this is because they calculate that the West will get alarmed and then will urge India to restrain itself. So how does India counter this nuclear blackmail that Pakistan always does?
This nuclear bogey or nuclear bluff or nuclear blackmail, this particular conflict also sort of called it out. I must explain again how it is different for Pakistan and India, even if they try it out as a first use. If you look at the Pakistan's length northeast to southwest, starting from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, going right up to Karachi or Gwadar, and see their width from Indian border to Iranian border. This is the strategic depth from Indian border to Iranian border, and the strategic north-south, sort of a distance is what it is. And all the 6, 7, 8 population centers or big cities are within this. And look at us, starting from Gujarat to Arunachal and Kashmir to Kanyakumari. And our population centers are spread right up to Calcutta, Guwahati and all. If Pakistan strikes first, even if a tactical weapon or a dirty weapon or by whatever, उनके तो मिनिस्टर कहते हैं पाइया पाइया के बम हैं,
बिल्कुल
आधे आधे पाव के बम हैं, and वो कहते हैं ऐसे बम हैं जो फेंकेंगे तो सिर्फ हिंदू को मारेंगे, मुसलमान को नहीं मारेंगे. So this is the IQ of the ministers, not going into that. So this is our depth. Now, even if Pakistan hits first use, and our policy of massive strike and unacceptable damage, imagine they don't have the strategic depth to absorb a second strike, which is going to be massive. They will be decimated. This they also know, the world also knows, and we have declared policy. That's why the bluff is called moment our nuclear doctrine is public. We can absorb, we will suffer casualties, I agree on that. We will suffer casualties wherever that nuclear bomb is dropped. And second is we do not differentiate the first use from the quality of the bomb or the impact of the bomb or intensity of the bomb. कि नहीं ये तो छोटा सा था. No, it's the first use. We reserve the right of massive strike, unacceptable damage.
In the end, General Dhillon, I want to take you back to your time in the valley, which you have captured so beautifully in your first book, Kitne Ghazi Aaye. You also have shown very much the human side of the Indian Fauj. Because I remember in our last conversation, you said that one of the most satisfying things for you was that you would talk to mothers in the Kashmir Valley and you would tell them कि आप appeal करो अपने बेटों से put down the gun. Given what's happened in Pahalgam, how does the Indian army, how do generals like yourself retain your heart, your soft side?
Ma'am, a military man, दिखने में लगता है 6.25 फुट, मूछें, चौड़ी छाती, chin up, weapon and authority, very piercing eyes.
Yes.
Inside, he's a very soft person.
Yeah.
Inside, he's a very humane person because he stays away from his family, away from his children.
Yeah.
And he sees life and death from very close.
Yeah.
So he's a very sensitive human being from within. And with that only that initiative you are referring to, Operation Ma.
Yeah.
Ma'am, as a corps commander in Kashmir, with all the authority, with all the laws behind me, with all the power behind me, the gun in my and my Jawan's hands, it's very easy to kill. To kill a terrorist is not one big thing. जिसने गन उठाई है वो आज नहीं तो कल उसने मरना ही है. But to not kill and get that young boy back to his parents is something which the God can do or a soldier with the peace initiative in combat zone can do. So we tried that initiative.
Yeah.
कि जान बचाना बड़ी बात है, जान लेना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है. वो तो आज ना कल आ जाएगा किसी न किसी इनकाउंटर में.
Yeah.
So we experimented with peace with a gun in hand and it succeeded. More than 50 young Kashmiri boys returned to their families and they're living happily with them. So point which we are at now, the Kashmir's peace, the infrastructure development, the economic development, education ki bahali jisko bolte hain na, education restored.
Yeah.
The schools were closed for 280 days because of the Band and Hartal. You have covered Kashmir so extensively. No one knows it better than you. And today, when the children are going to school, they have a future. The banks are open, the flights are coming full, hotels are full, shikaras are full, houseboats are full, taxis are running 24/7. The guides are earning well, the hotel wala, dhaba wala, everyone is earning. So the boy who was being sent to go and throw stone for 500 rupees, and with every chance of getting killed as a stone pelter or tomorrow as a terrorist.
Yeah.
Today he's going out and driving a taxi and he's coming back with 2,000 rupees every evening. And he's coming back to his family, he's coming back to his wife, he's coming back to his children, he's coming back to his mother. So वो जो खुशहाली का दौर आ गया ना,
बिल्कुल.
Incident like Pahalgam cannot take it back. That is irreversible now. First time in the history of Kashmir, Kashmiri people have come out on streets to protest against the terrorism and in favor of India. And they have on record, on camera said it.
Absolutely.
It has never happened earlier.
I agree, but I even met a man who वो रो रहा था. वो कह रहा था इन्होंने हमें खत्म, इन्होंने meaning पाकिस्तान ने हमें खत्म कर दिया है और हमारी इकोनॉमी को छोड़ो, ये जो हुआ ये दरिंदे थे, ये जानवर थे. But I want to ask you, are you concerned about the local terrorists who were involved in Pahalgam? And are you concerned that at an individual level we still have to hunt down those terrorists, both the Pakistani terrorists who were involved and the local ones?
Absolutely, ma'am. Ma'am, operation like Pahalgam, where a terrorist enters from line of control or maybe international boundary or through third country, investigations will tell. Now to home on to Baisaran Valley, it cannot happen without local support. Someone will receive him the moment he enters Indian territory. Someone will give him shelter, food, logistics, clothing. Someone will guide him from that place on to Pahalgam. Someone will assist him in doing the reconnaissance. Someone will tell him where the security forces are, what is their reaction time, and then someone will help them escape from that point of view.
And this help would be given at the threat of a gun or because they are sleeper cells?
And there are terror sympathizers, they are overgrown workers, they are sleeper cells, and it can be also
fear
at the point of a gun, but that is very less chance because उसमें expose होने का chance ज़्यादा होता है. And those who say Kashmir में पूरा peace आ गया है, I will differ because the last 10%, the consolidation phase is going on, and it's the most tedious phase because terrorist numbers have come down. Today, 80% terrorists in Kashmir are non-Kashmiris. They're Pakistani terrorists.
That's right.
In Pulwama, which was such a hotbed, last 2 years I'm told, there has been no recruitment of local boys into Taiz. Ma'am, I was in Kashmir. Pahalgam happened on 22nd April. I was in Kashmir till 21st April. I took the 6:45 p.m. flight. And I was so happy to see everyone so happy there.
Yeah.
So much so, I wanted to go to Dal Lake. I could not reach Dal Lake.
Because itni bheed hoti hai.
Itni bheed, itne tourists, and I just felt so nice, and I turned the vehicle back and I came back. So coming back to the point, Kashmir ki jo, and these people, those who are helping them, are in single digit 1 to 3%.
Yeah.
That does not mean the balance 97%, 95% of society is bad.
That's right.
That society is the one which came on the roads against the terrorism. और मैम इस पीस को लाने के लिए, इस सिचुएशन को लाने के लिए जितने सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस वालों ने बलिदान दिए हैं, जितने सिविलियंस ने बलिदान दिए हैं, जितने कश्मीरियों ने बलिदान दिए हैं, दे कैन नॉट बी अलाउड टू गो इन वेन. उनके जो सैक्रिफाइसेस हैं, they have to be taken into account to keep this peace process going, keep this economic khushhali going. And Kashmir is becoming integral part of India. It was always an integral part of India.
But emotionally
now emotionally,
yeah,
from the heart, dil se, jazbaat se, now they are very much integral part of India. And this is clear from the, not even 20% are local terrorists. In the total, about 80 or terrorists who are present in the valley today. It's only the Pakistan who wants to keep Kashmir into the news, in the news. And another point, if Pakistan was such a हमदर्द of Kashmiris, कि कश्मीरी की आज़ादी के लिए काम कर रहा है, कश्मीरी के लिए जिहाद कर रहा है, कश्मीरी के सुख दुख में उसके साथ खड़ा है, he is killing because he wants to help the Kashmiris.
Yeah.
Who got most worstly affected after Pahalgam?
The Kashmiris.
The गरीब कश्मीरी, जिसका ढाबा था, जिसका होटल था, जिसकी दुकान थी, जो ड्राई फ्रूट बेचता था, जो पोनी वाला था, जो सूमो वाला था, जिसका हाउस बोट, जिसका जो शिकारा था, जो शॉल बेच के अपने बेचारा नौकरी का, जो जिंदगी के बच्चे पाल रहा था, उसके पेट पे टांग मारी है. ये कोई जिहाद नहीं है, ये कोई कश्मीरी के साथ हमदर्दी नहीं है. पाकिस्तान, like we discussed in the earlier questions, Pakistan has got no love lost to anyone.
Yeah.
It has got only its own agenda which it wants to drive. And like Asim Munir had said, Kashmir is a jugular vein. Hindus, Muslims cannot be the same. And these two things are visible in Pahalgam. Kashmir is a jugular vein, Kashmiris are not.
Yeah.
And he did Pahalgam by absolutely ruining the livelihood of poor Kashmiris. जिनके घर में रात को रोटी बनती थी तो बच्चे खाते थे. Now they have been hit badly.
I want to say that the improved situation in Jammu and Kashmir is because of the service of people like you, men like you. So we salute you for your service. We salute you, General Dhillon, and all of the Indian Armed Forces. Thank you so much. Really, this nation owes all of you and men like you a debt. Thank you for talking to us, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am, and I will accept this point as a head of our team security forces of that time. And I would like to believe that this is for all of them who were together.
Absolutely, sir.
And this peace is a result of sacrifices of a lot of security forces personnel,
yes,
lot of Indians, lot of Kashmiris.
Yes.
And they all combined together deserves all the accolades, all the, shabash, for where Kashmir is today, from where
it was.
वो गाना नहीं है, लाए हैं मझधार से कश्ती निकाल के.
बिल्कुल.
So these are the people who have taken out the nav, kashti or boat from the middle of that tempest. So salute to those who laid down their lives for what Kashmir is today. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir. Thank you.